Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli has continued with his political gambits. Latest in a series of moves has been cutting short the winter session of the National Assembly, which only lasted for 10 days. The executive head, who has been defending the dissolution of the lower house as per constitutional guidelines, simply doesn't want any more deliberations on his controversial step, to say the least. Good morning, I'm Sarah Chitrakar and these are the headlines of the hour. The winter session of the National Assembly lasts for only 10 days. Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli avoids answering queries on dissolution of the lower house. The government claims of carrying out extraordinary works. Data says otherwise. Development expenditure only 13% in the first 6 months of the current fiscal year. The US House of Representatives could vote on the article of impeachment against the outgoing President Donald Trump by tomorrow. And Chelsea, along with Manchester City and Tottenham, advanced to FA Cup 4th round. Leeds United stunned by Crawley Town. The government, which dissolved the House of Representatives and announced elections in April and May, has abruptly decided to end the winter session of the National Assembly. The 7th session of the upper house was prorogued within 10 days of its convention, as the government did not want to prolong the session following strong protest against the Prime Minister's step to dissolve the lower house, calling it as unconstitutional. We have more in this report.
After the unexpected dissolution of the House of Representatives, Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli was criticised during the winter session of the National Assembly. However, the government did not allow the National Assembly to sit for more than 4 working days and prorogued the winter session to be effective from Sunday midnight. The government had convened the winter session of the upper house from 1st of January, as constitutionally the house session cannot remain inactive for more than 6 months. However, during the 4-day meeting of the session, voices were raised against the Prime Minister's move. The National Assembly is considered as the representing body of the people to discuss on contentious issues and to caution the government. Lawmakers expressed their dissatisfaction over the government's decision to end the winter session of the National Assembly and criticized the government for trying to suppress the voices raised against it. Prime Minister Oli, who reached the National Assembly on the last day of the session on Sunday, overlooked the voices raised during the session and was reluctant to respond to the queries. The modus operandi of the executive head and the prorogation of the upper house demonstrate that the government is not accountable to the people's representative body. Opponents are being aggressive against Prime Minister Oli, who has been publicly saying that the dissolution of the House of Representatives was a political issue and the Supreme Court should dismiss the writ petitions.
Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli, who has been facing strong criticisms for dissolving the House of Representatives, has been claiming that the government has furnished extraordinary development works. However, facts portray just the opposite of his claims. With just 2 days remaining for his fiscal year to complete 6 months, the government has spent 6 billion rupees less compared to the same period of the last fiscal year, or just 13% from the development budget. The development works carried out by the government is reflected through its expenditure. The government's expenditure data do not match with the Prime Minister's claim of the government carrying out extraordinary performance. Out of the 352.91 billion rupees allocated for development works, only 46.06 billion rupees, or around 13%, has been spent in the first 6 months of the fiscal year. The amount is 5.83 billion rupees less compared to the same period of the last fiscal year. The government's failure to spend the considerable chunk of the development budget has adversely impacted job opportunities. There is also a liquidity surplus of 230 billion rupees in the country's banking system. The government, which has not spent much in development works, has not stepped back in increasing administrative expenses. So far, 300.31 billion rupees has been spent in current expenditure in this fiscal year, which is 310 million rupees more compared to the amount spent during the same period of the last fiscal year. The elections announced for April and May will further increase the current expenditure while it will also have an impact on development works. The development projects which were aimed at completing this fiscal year will most likely be stranded due to the dissolution of the lower house and snail-paced works. The government spending all the budget allocated for current expenditure but failing to spend the budget for development works has been a past practice, also followed by the Oli-led administration. In our Public Voice segment, we had asked people in Sindhupal Chowk why has the trend of opening agriculture and animal husbandry firms and shutting them down after receiving grants been on the rise. Let's take a look at what they had to say.
पैसा लिन्छन् कृषिको लागि भनेर तर कृषि काम चाहिँ गर्दैनन् पैसा चाहिँ अन्तै कहाँ के लगानी गर्छन्
अब खेतबारीमा खन्न भर्न जोत्न घाँस काट्न सबै कुरामा उलाई लाज हुन्छ हैन कृषि व्यवसायमा यो लाइन गरो त्यो लाइन गरो भन्यो उता ठौठा गरो खायो यता देखायो
कृषिलाई नगरिकन अरु पेशामै धेरै आबद्ध भएर त्यो पैसा अरु अन्तै लगानी गर्नुहुन्छ
आफ्नै मान्छे हुन्छन् हाम्रो अब उनीहरूले आफ्नो मान्छे भएपछि काम नगरिन् भने पैसा पाउँछन् हामी वास्तविक किसानी हौ हामीले काम गरे पनि पैसा पाउँदैनौं
It's time now for our segment Public Pulse, where you text us with your opinion. Here's the question: why has the development budget not been spent as per expectation despite continuous efforts? Your options are A. Procedural hassle, B. Feeble implementation system, and C. Leadership's indifference. The voting is on. Type NEWS, select your option A, B or C and send it to 34001 to share your opinion with us. It's time now for our special segment, Off the Beat. Nepal government had struck an agreement with the Chinese government for the reconstruction works of historical monuments that were damaged in the 2015 April earthquake. However, the unavailability of the Chinese side, citing corona pandemic, has greatly hampered the renovation and restructuring works of Nuwakot Darbar. The 9-storied historical Nuwakot Darbar, built by late King Prithvi Narayan Shah, was first damaged during the 1933 massive earthquake. The ensuing reconstruction of Nuwakot Darbar at the time had reduced the iconic palace into 7 stories. The Nuwakot Darbar was severely damaged during the 2015 earthquake as the government reached an agreement with China for the reconstruction of the palace in June 2019 with pledges to complete the work in just under 4 years' time. The Chinese side had immediately started the reconstruction, but the works were stalled amid the corona pandemic. The Chinese side had also been entrusted with the reconstruction of the temple of Tulaja Bhavani, Rangamahal, among other historic monuments in the premises of the Nuwakot Darbar. However, the authorities in Nepal are unaware about when the reconstruction works can actually begin. Newari culture is a prominent part of age-old Nepali art and culture. A 2-day art festival aiming to safeguard and promote Newari culture and lifestyle was held in Butwal last week. The participants and organizers of the 2-day exhibition said that the event has been solely held to promote Newari culture in a way of handing over the rich art and tradition of the Newars to newer generation. The arts have mainly covered the Newari garments, jewelry, utensils, festivals, deities and Newari traditions and lifestyles. Some 30 professional artists from Rupandehi and adjoining areas participated in the 2-day event. Some of the participants also expressed their happiness to work amid the presence of experts in the field. The event was organized by Newar Pucha under the assistance of the Arts Department of the Fine Arts Academy and Ernico Memorial Academy.
This is Sarah Chitrakar for our special segment Off the Beat at Kantipur News Desk.
That's all for the moment. Keep watching Kantipur Television HD for more news and entertainment. Good day.